So is this there?
Hi, who would like to speak? Hello, go ahead. Somebody would like to speak? You don't have to. Can you hear me? Okay, you can put it in the live chat. Hi, Hamza, can you hear me? Great. Okay, we're just getting set up and connected. So we'll start in officially in 10 minutes. I'm just doing some tech testing here on sharing windows. But if there's anything you want to bring to my attention, please feel free to. I'm just checking to see if I can be heard. So just put a yes in the live chat if you can hear me while you see a picture of the global classroom. That you should see that. Great. Thank you, Masoom, Jacob, Ashwin. Okay, we're going to start in about 6 minutes. I'm just trying to navigate the tech a little bit here, just making sure I know what I can do today with the tech. I'll explain, but we'll start at 2:10. Okay, so that's working. I'm sharing an image. You may hear me thinking out loud. You don't have to react. Just need to. Oh, there's that as well. Okay, let me see how I'm going to do that. I want to share a tab. So if I do that, I do that. I come back here, and then I'm going to share the tab. Right, so to do that, that's something different. Yeah. Okay, so we'll share that for a second. Let's see. Does that immediately share? No, it's not fully registering, isn't it? I have to do this. Yeah. That's the move that has to be made. Yeah. Then I do that. So I can expect that they'll see it. And let's see what YouTube sees. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to work. That's going to work. Where is it? No, I want that. Right. I can stop sharing from there. Then I come back here, and then I got to do that. Yeah. Okay. Please do me a favor when you come into the class. If you can just put your full name in the live chat, because that way I can update everything. I can't just work from the names you sign in with. So just go ahead and write your full name. That's right. Harris Noor, Hamza Mali, Ali, Rudra, Harris. Good. Hi, Dalton. Great. Dalton. What? Exactly. So just put your full name in. Then that's right, y'all. That's right. Okay. It's looking pretty good. We're up on YouTube. That's good. And I've muted that. Ooh, yeah. And how's our stream doing? Stream's doing not too badly. Okay, so I'll come back here. Great. Great. Get ready, Dalton. We're going to finish that activity about the strike, which we didn't finish last week. So we're going to have lots of time. But as you think about the strike, think about the future, okay? Because that's where we're going to take the class today. All right. Okay, great. So far good. So Masoom is in. Let's see what we have. And how are we doing on YouTube? Yeah. So if I look down, I keep looking down. That's right. Then I can be looking at the students, at least the icons. So try and do that as best I can. Yeah, the looking down. Okay. See what else. Okay, so we've got those. Okay, I think we're going to start in a couple of minutes. Just give it a little bit more time to see. That we don't need. But that tab we need. That tab we need. Thank you, Shazab. The live streaming, that's the back end of YouTube. That's good. And that's good. So let's come back to something here. now I know how to share properly. Let's show them this. Yeah, that's where we'd like to be. That's where we would like to be. So I'm just going to slowly get off the tarmac here and remind ourselves of where we could be if everything were working properly. We would be sitting in the global classroom together, and there would be lots of in-person students, mostly on the couches and around the couches. There would be microphones ready for people to engage. I would be at the podium. There would be a student assisting there, and we'd have the big board going. We'd have the space station going as well, live from the International Space Station, to get a sense of where we are located right now from a planet-wide perspective. And we'd have some notes started, and then there would be, of course, the live chat up there and the video conference, and everything would be ready to get going on the big board. But that's not the way it's going to be today. The way it's going to be is it's going to be me from a sunroom in Toronto, from just near High Park. And it should work just fine. We will have a class, and we will have the critical content, and we will interact, and we will move things forwards, but it's a backup plan. Anyhow, welcome everyone to Humanity's Destiny. And I see that we have right now about 17 students in the class, and that's good. And there will be, let's say, many, many more watching the recording later, because we have a fully registered class of 56 for Humanity's Destiny. So most of the students will be watching the recording later. But it's great that you're here in person. And what I want to do is just first, before I explain to you what we're going to do today, and then move things along with our activity as well. I might do a little lecture. But first, I just want to make sure that everybody can see me and hear me clearly. So please just put into the live chat a yes if we're good. You can see me, you can hear me clearly, you can see me clearly. Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Now, I always want to spend a little bit of time at the beginning of a class, wherever we are, dealing with tech. And part of the reason is because I want to make sure that everything's working well. But then there's another reason too, which is it's also my way of saying to you that tech really, really, really matters for our future, but the proper use of tech. Okay, so that's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to manage the tech right now. And so I just want to take a few moments to uh, make sure that your tech is working. Okay, so I want you to just be aware that today I'd like to bring you in as much as possible on your microphones and sharing your camera when possible. So just be aware of that. And I want you to know as well that I'm used to all the excuses of why people won't want to get on their microphone or use their camera, and I understand that. Okay, I know how much people don't like to share their camera or even talk, but let's try as best we can today. Okay, there's a lot of fatigue around video conferencing and tech. So oh, okay, Hamza, go. Hamza, why don't you jump in? Can you get on your microphone? Nope. Okay. Um, so, anyways, we just be aware that we're going to try and use tech really well, and we do it not just because we want to have a great class together and because we want to interact, but also because we want to demonstrate to ourselves that humanity's destiny is based on smart use of tech, not lazy use or passive use, but good use of tech. Okay, so in a way, that's what I'm trying to say to you by getting you to jump on your microphones, share your camera, is to be able to come into the class. Okay, so, anyways, let's move forwards. What I want to do today is first make sure that everybody's on board, and we have that. That's great. You don't need to put your name in if you already have already, but for those of you who didn't hear me just a little bit before as we were launching, please write your full name into the live chat when you come into the class, and that way I'll be able to update everything properly in the spreadsheet, and you'll get your proper participation marks. Be aware that today, being a little bit different, we're online here from my home for a reason, an obvious reason, as I've mentioned about tech support in the global classroom, that we are going to do things slightly differently. So in terms of your participation marks for today, if you enter a question into the discussion post at the end, remember that's the 2.5%, 5 out of 5. If you do that today and you just do the question and nothing more, you'll get 4 out of 5. Okay. If you want the full marks, if you want the 5 out of 5, which some students really do because they'll email me, you have to do what the asynchronous students do. It's the same as last week. You have to do the full explanation of your question. I'll repeat that at the end of the class too, but just be aware that if you want that 5 out of 5, you're going to have to work for it. Okay. So the second thing I want to do before we get going, and I'll explain what we're going to do today, is to pick the note taker today. And the note taker will be putting the notes into the live chat. So remember, that student who is the note taker for the class gets full 5 out of 5 for participation by doing that through the class, the notes. Anyone want to volunteer? Let's see. How engaged you are. Well, okay, good question, Masoom. Nice. Okay, here's the next thing. Masoom, how about jumping on your microphone so we can do this in real time? We don't have to wait for the live chat. Great.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so the idea for notes is that as we do the class, you're taking down in the live chat what you think are important things that are being said. You can actually be doing this in a separate document. You don't have to be doing it in the live chat live. You can do it separately and then cut and paste it into the live chat at the end of the class for review. But the idea is that you're listening to what's being said. You're writing down what you think are critical things. You're processing the information, and you're also listening when we say to you, Masoom, can you please put this in the notes? And
Okay.
are you good with that?
Yeah, I'll be fine with that.
Okay, great. So then there you go. You've got your 5 out of 5. Okay, but these notes become important because it's what students will be using to study for their first assignment in 3 or 4 weeks when they have to write a much longer reflection and to review what we did in class. So the notes are significant, in combination with the recording and the discussion board. It's a full learning experience that you're going to get. So okay, great. So today we've got Masoom on the notes, and we can move on from there. I'm just taking a quick look at my lesson plan. All right, so for today, what I want to do is I want to do part 2 of last week and finish it, the current event. we didn't actually give all of the groups, the teams, a chance to present from the board. And I'm going to just show you something now to remind you of that. And just before I do that, I will explain that what we want to do is determine by the end of today's class what is important about the strike that's happening in real time around you, a current event, a current crisis that is important for our future. And I will also deliver the critical content, not as a lecture. I can, but I'd rather just do it as we discuss, and then I stop and give you critical things based on our conversation. And that will be the moment when I speak longer, and that will be the sort of lecture, if you will. So let me just show you something and make sure, just to kind of remind you of where we were last week with this. And right now, you should see the notes from last week. And I'm just going to scroll a little bit through this. And if you don't see the notes, Humanity's Destiny on board Wednesday, September the 10th, just let us know in the live chat, but you should. And let me just check on YouTube. Yeah, it looks good on YouTube. So the recording, guys, they'll get it. So I'm going to just scroll over here. So let's just go down and take a look and see about the teams. So let's see who's here, okay, in terms of the teams, because what I want to do is give all the teams a chance to present what they did. But by way of refreshing your memory, I'm going to speak a little bit about the strike and about the connection to humanity's destiny. So I'm going to stop for a moment and just ask anyone, does anyone have any questions at this point about anything regarding today's class, anything regarding the discussion post that you did, anything that's on your mind? Let's see. Nothing coming in? Let's see in the live chat, nothing. And the ideal is just to jump on your microphone and speak. But okay, so no questions. Fair enough. What I'd also like to do today, as we continue to complete the current activity, the strike, is go to the discussion board and have students read out loud some of their discussion posts. And I have some identified that I thought were quite well done. So we'll see if those students are here or not. But it's really important that we also continue to build on the work that you're doing in the discussion posts. And that's building towards your first assignment in about 3 weeks or so. I will explain more about that next week. So first, let's see who is here from Team 1. Is Kiki in the class, a live class today? Just let us know. Carmen, Matea, Ashwin, Jacob, or Ibrahim. Is anybody from Team 1 in the live class today? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so I'm going to scroll. Let's go to Team 2. Oops, or let's see where we are in the next team. Yeah, Team 2. So Adam, Christina, Ibrahim, is that from Team 1? Ibrahim? Great. Okay, good. And Ashwin? Great. Okay, so there's some students here. Then I'm now at Team 2. Adam, Christina, Subira, I think Shazib, Tirson, Jack. Okay, so there's some students, I think, from Team 2 as well. Let me just check. Team 1. And that would be, I'll go to Team 1. Ashwin, did you have a chance to present and speak about your findings? I can't remember last week. Yes? Or no? Can you
no.
just... No, you didn't? Okay,
No.
good. So team one, I'm going to go to. Just hold on for a second, but thanks for getting on your microphone. Just be ready in a moment to talk about your results. And I can keep them up on the board for you, up here for you, Ashwin, but I'm just going to speak a little bit longer for the moment. So we'll start with team one momentarily, and we'll go from there. But let's take a step back for a moment, okay? And I'm going to help you to just get ready for everything here. Okay, we'll come back to the notes. Okay, the strike. Humanity's destiny. A current event. Our future. Where are we going? Well, first, let's try and understand something about why we're talking about this particular current event. It was great to see in the discussion posts that you were all dealing with the strike as you should. You were all talking about it in your own perspectives, but not always were you talking about it in terms of humanity's destiny, about our future. Some students did, and that was good. We are looking at the strike from the perspective of our future over the next, let's say, to make it simple for us for now, your lifetime. Okay, so we're talking about the next, definitely, I'm going to be optimistic, 100 years. You're all going to be living a long time, right? So I want to first ask all of you, is there anybody that would like to speak to the strike right now about what you're going through, about what you're experiencing? Remember, we're talking about a current event in real time that's happening to you right now. So before I get to the bigger picture and get to the future and what we can learn together today about our future through the strike, let me ask you, Dalton, are you there? Let's see if Dalton is still in or Dalton is out. We don't know. Has he fallen out of the class? Dalton, can you jump on your microphone, please? Let's see. I won't wait too long. No? Okay. So I'm not going to assume anything for why Dalton can't do this, okay? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But what I will say is I want you all to remember that this class also has essential employability outcomes to go with the learning outcomes. And employability outcomes are all about communication. Oh, there he is. Oh, he's back. He may have been out of the meeting. Okay. So, Dalton, can you jump on your microphone? Because I want to talk to you about what you've posted in the live chat. Please go ahead. Are you there? Did he leave or did he join? Dalton? Let's see what we're getting. Okay, great. So you're working on it. Excellent. I see. So please work on it. And if you can, even better, in terms of communication, please share your camera so we can see you. If you can't, I get it, but just please be aware that humanity's destiny, in terms of what you're being graded on and what you're learning, is all about communication too. It's not just about the future, it's about how you communicate about the future. So it's really important that you're on top of it in terms of engaging in an online format. Okay. So, all right, we'll let Dalton figure that out. And I'm going to move on, and I'm going to check in with some of you just to see what you're thinking about. Yeah, Dalton's having some difficulty. So here we go. Masum, could you please oh no, Masum, you're doing the notes, but you can also, I'll let you be with the notes, okay? Adam, could you jump on your microphone, please? Interesting. Okay. Adam?
Hello.
Good. Great. Okay, Adam, how about your camera?
Nope.
Can you?
Nope.
No. Okay. So we have at least your voice. Now, I want you to remember that my job as your professor here is to really get you to communicate at the top of your form. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some tough questions. And if you don't want to talk, that's fair. Just mute yourself. Okay. But there's a reason why I'm drawing you in, because I want you to be a good communicator as well. So, Adam, how's the strike going?
I mean, it's going.
And are you getting to your classes?
Yep.
And do you want the strike to end?
For sure. It's very inconveniencing.
Yeah. So, are you pissed off about the strike?
Not really.
No? Okay. Tell me why.
Because everyone's got a right to it, right?
Yep. That's true. But let's try and think for a moment about. Oh, great, Dalton. We get to see
sir.
now.
Got it to work. Got it to work. We did it. We did it.
Way to
We did
go.
it.
No, we're going to come to you. Okay. Adam, I'm going to stick with Adam for a second. Adam, in your lifetime, as you look ahead into your life, where do you see yourself 20 years from now?
Hopefully retired.
Hopefully retired. Oh,
Yep.
so you're a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
You're a little bit older. What program are you in?
Marketing transfer program.
Marketing transfer program? Okay.
Yep.
So let's take the next 10 years. Why? And you won't be retired in the next 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Do you see that this might happen again? This strike in those 10 years?
I mean, they happen every 5 years, so whatever.
Yeah. And why do you think it's going to happen again?
Because of bad government regulations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Adam, do you think it's fair to say that humanity, in terms of our destiny, we have a big problem with trust in our leaders? Would you say that's what's that?
It's always been like that.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time.
Now I'm going to just say finally, thank you for answering these harder questions. Is it fair for me to say that you're probably a bit of a pessimist?
Maybe.
Some students have said in this class that they've started as a pessimist and they've started to shift and becoming more of an optimist. Or some have said that they started.
I would say I kind of do my own thing, so I don't really care, right, what they do.
Fair enough.
It doesn't affect me, right? I find a way to make it work.
Excellent. You will find a way to make it work. But would you agree, just for the sake of, as we start to go forwards with humanity's destiny and talk about what this strike means, that we have a problem with trust right now? We just might have a problem with trust. Would you? And that's been there for a long time.
Possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Thanks, Adam, for
no problem.
Coming in. Okay, Dalton, let's come.
Sir.
I'm going to actually, since I control what everybody sees, I'm going to make sure that they see you.
Oh,
Okay?
sorry, front and center, eh?
Exactly. Okay, and so there you go. And Dalton, could you just read or tell us what you wrote in the live chat?
Oh man, last week, is it still in there?
No, just now.
Oh.
From this week, you just wrote a little bit, like not too long ago when you joined. Here it is. The strike is absurd. They're only letting, yeah,
Yeah, okay. So I think it's a little insane. I think you almost have to side with it because at the end of the day, why would you be against it when if you're for it, it'll end sooner, right? Because the way that it was going last week, and I have to say is I have to drive after saying this, so I'm sorry if I can't reply because I
yeah,
have to drive to my next class for 4.
no
But it's
problem.
because what it used to be was they'd let cars in every 30 seconds, right? You could go in 30 seconds, they'd blow the whistle, they'd come back, go across the road. But now they're only letting one car in. So I don't know if you know where the ice center is, but there's a road
Yes.
called Northern Dancer right behind it.
Mm,
The
mm.
cars were backed up. Traffic was backed up for like an hour all the way past the ice center. And it's a little bit absurd because at the end of the day, yes, they're making a statement and they're making it known, and the college is going to have to step in very soon. However, at the end of the day, it's very annoying in
Yeah.
my perspective because if you don't know that they're going to do that, let in one car when before they would let in 3, 4, 5, 6 cars every 30 seconds, every minute, then you're not going to be able to prepare for it, right? Like as today, I have to leave early because I understand. But
Yes.
before, if you don't know that they're only going to let one car in, it's just absurd.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and thank you for being able to come into the class, talk about this, and share these thoughts, because this is what we do in this kind of global class that we do, is that we learn together, and I kind of guide you through conversational depth,
Mhm.
and also through some of the lectures that I give off my toes when I think it's appropriate. What I want to make sure that we do as we go forwards today is that every time there's a comment from a student about the strike, I want to be able to extract from that what is the central sort of point that we need to note down and help Masoom note down in terms of our future. And I'm doing that through your sort of your lives. And so Adam, talked a little bit about his life and retiring, and I established that we have a bit of a trust problem right now, and he said that's the way it's always been. But when we go forwards, humanity goes forwards, our destiny, we will have to address trust in our leaders. Really important. How do we maintain trust? Now, Dalton, if you think about it, for a moment, as I'm asking you to think, based on what you just said, what do you think is sort of like the critical point in what you said that would go in the notes that sort of speaks to our future somehow, and you can do it in terms of your own life. Okay, just think about your life, and what is it that is happening right now, do you think is going to continue to happen, in your life, that we have to address
In
humanity?
terms of the strike making an
Yes.
impact, like how are they going about it to make an
Yeah.
impact?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, in terms of relating this to everything in life, I think that communication is first and foremost the first way that you should always approach everything. However, I feel like, especially like big higher ups, corporations, and massive entities like the head of the college, or I heard that it's across 21 different schools across Ontario, so I imagine it's a really big corporation, right? I
Yeah.
feel like you can't always, especially as just like a small employee, you can't always get your words across because they'll sometimes go on deaf ears, right? So the biggest way to make an impact is visually in most cases.
Oh, interesting. Visually, that
Mhm.
in order to get heard, there needs to be a visual dimension to it. In order to communicate effectively, you gotta have a visual dimension.
Well, like for example, say McDonald's is doing something really unfortunate, right? They're just
Yeah.
not conducting business in a proper manner. It instead of just talking to them about it, it probably won't make a massive change. So you'd have to eventually stop the flow of money. Even though we already paid to go to the school, money talks, right? So they'd have to somehow find a way to
Yeah.
make their paying members, their patrons, less less not comfortable, but less enjoyable for them, because then obviously the school, for example, if we're less enjoyed, we're
Yeah.
having less enjoyment out of traversing to the school. That like the parking lot today or yesterday was empty compared to Monday, where they were actually letting in multiple students, right? So I figured a lot of people are annoyed, and it's even like it's Simcoe Road, right? It's not just the school,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's impeding the entire city almost.
Yeah. So you're mentioning something that we touched on last week too, which is communication.
Mhm.
The communication, and you're talking about a way of communicating as well. That's significant, having the visual dimension. But we come back again to that idea of communication, trust and communication, trust and communication. Masum, it's important that in the notes you just, and there's one other point I'm going to give to you that's really important today around trust and communication. It's also about perspective. And you mentioned 21 colleges, Dalton. It's actually 24. Okay,
It's 24.
it's 24.
Wow.
Now, I want to correct something from last week that's really important. It went into the notes, and it has to do with this sort of broader view. We talked about planetization last week, like the larger planet-wide view, and in the notes it came as planetism. It just was planetism. That was it was incorrectly written, and it's because I didn't give the correct spelling. Okay, so it's not the note taker's fault, but in the notes it came down as we're in an era of planetism, PLAENTIZEN. It's planetization. Okay, so Masoom, can you just make sure that gets in the notes? It's corrected, because that's a really, really important part of humanity's destiny. Understanding this broader view, this bigger view, and that bigger view is called planetization. We are in an era of planetization, and I'll explain more about that. Okay, but this current event tells us, like so many current events today, that things that happen locally have a planet-wide significance, and generally what's happening planet-wide is affecting what's happening locally. They're both connected. It's not globalization, it's planetization. Okay, now, does anyone want to just, for the moment, and this would be where I would give a lecture on this, but I just will do it very briefly. Does anyone want to know the difference between globalization and planetization? Because you've probably all heard the term globalization, but you may not really be familiar with planetization. Or do you want me to explain it? Let's see. Great. Thanks. Good. I'm seeing it in the live chat. Okay. We have generally been talking about the interconnected world over the last decades in terms of globalization, and that's an economic term. And it's important to understand the difference. So I'm going to answer the question now, and I'm just going to speak a little bit to this. Okay, so this is important stuff to understand. There are quite a few students in my classes that are in the supply chain and management programs at the college. And there's nothing more sort of instructive about how globalization works than understanding supply chains, supply lines, and how products get made in one part of the world, they get manufactured in another part, they get marketed in another part, and then eventually they wind up on shelves in supermarkets and stores, and they come from all over the world. That's globalization. Globalization is this interconnected economic entity, meaning that when there's a strike, for example, at an institution, it could be college, it could be any organization, it could be Starbucks. It's essentially people responding to global market forces. And there was one student last week who wrote this in their team activity. I don't know if he's with us this week. Do you remember the student who wrote? I can't remember. I think it's team 2, and you wrote global market forces or something to that effect. Are you in the class today? Maybe not. Well, that is an important thing to understand about the significance of this current event is the fact that the reason that the support staff are on strike. Oh, Dalton. Okay, you wrote about how it impacts it. Good. Okay, so it is because there are larger trends happening globally in terms of what we call capitalism, the force of capitalism. It's the global economic force that every country in the world either subscribes to or has to react to. It doesn't matter if you're a communist country like China, whether you are a kind of semi-communist, autocratic dictatorship that Russia has become, whether you're Israel, whether you are, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, whether you are in Canada, everybody is connected to these global forces now, and that's what happens. There's a lot of volatility, a lot of disruption, and the result is we see more strikes, we see more protests in the streets, and we talked about that last week. Planetization is actually globalization plus something even bigger, and that's the environment. Now, what's happening right now at Durham College in terms of the strike is largely about the economic forces that are there globally. The planetization part here is not as relevant, but we need to talk about it nonetheless in terms of current events, because planetization is about humanity's relationship to the planet, to the environment. And we are now living at a time when the greatest current event, the most difficult to solve, is climate change, is sustainability. This is bigger than what's happening at Durham College and the strike right now. As important as it is for those support staff to be demonstrating and ensuring that they are treated with the proper justice and economic fairness, we have a bigger issue that all of humanity is facing everywhere, and that's called climate change. So when we talk about planetization, we're talking about this idea that humanity now knows. Like, there's no disputing this. There's no conflict about this. Whether there's no, there's lots of conspiracy theories and a lot of just bad information and people who have opinions, but they don't have the facts, real facts we can agree to. We have a problem. Humanity has a problem. We are changing the climate because of our growth, our industrial growth. And the world has become one single planet that we all have to deal with. That is called planetization. It's understanding that we are now having to deal with a planetized way of looking at everything. That's not globalization. It's bigger. And I want to make sure people understand this difference, because when we talk about humanity's destiny and we talk about your future and the future of your children and your grandchildren and everybody else, we're talking about current events today that take place: wildfires, flooding, tsunamis, weather that changes, in the course of a day. Sometimes there can be extremes in weather. The greatest current event that is happening is humanity's relationship with the planet. Now, let me just stop for a second and see if that's landing with all of you, or whether it's just like, this is way too abstract, way too big. First, I want to just check in with everybody. Ashwin, I'll start with you. Does this make sense, or are you wondering, where is this going?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay, great. Dalton, it makes sense. Excellent. For anybody, please now put your thinking cap on just for a little bit. Stay right in this live class and think about, did what your professor just say make sense? Or are you wondering, what does climate change have to do with support staff on strike? And what is all this? Where is this going? What is Lon saying? Please bring this to our attention and say, I don't understand, sir. Or Lon, I don't understand. I don't know what you're saying. Is there anybody? And I would totally understand if you said that. Anybody? Go ahead. If you feel, put it in the live chat and go, I don't really know what you mean about planetization and globalization and, you know, how did we get from the support staff to talking about wildfires? I don't get it. Or if I don't see anything, great. Thank you, Zaina. Excellent. Okay. Now here comes the communication part, Zaina. It's like I'm fishing. I'm throwing out my fishing rod, trying to pull Zaina in. Zaina, can you jump on your microphone?
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Excellent. Yeah. Are you able to share your camera or not?
No, unfortunately, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
It's okay. Zaina, when you asked me to explain a tiny bit more, what is not, what would you like me to explain exactly?
Maybe the planetization a bit more.
About
'Cause, like,
planetization a bit more?
yeah, just like a tiny bit more explanation to it, because like I'm
Sure.
writing notes of it.
Got it. Okay. Michael. Excellent. Michael is putting in caps, I don't understand what you're saying. Excellent. So, and Zaina is also asking for some clarification too. So I'm going to explain this. And I love questions like this. You want to understand. Okay. So let me come back to this idea of a single planet and try to help you to understand that the fact that we are aware of a planet that we live on is relatively new for humanity. 100 years ago, if we go back just a little bit in history to 1925, for example, we were just beginning to think about going into space with space exploration. We did not have even a picture yet, not a picture of planet Earth. Like it didn't exist. People and scientists were telling us, as they have over the centuries, that based on their observations and based on what they knew about the solar system and all the other planets in our solar system, that Earth is a single planet and it's part of a solar system, but we've never seen it. Then in the late 1960s, during the Apollo missions, these were space exploration missions driven by the Cold War between the United States, the Soviet Union, largely the Western countries led by the United States and the Eastern countries led by the Soviet Union. They were in a race called Cold War. They weren't fighting yet, but they were in a race to create the best new technologies. And that race led to the Americans landing a person on the moon in 1969. I'm going to assume that all of you are familiar with Neil Armstrong in August of 1969 landing and walking on the moon landing. I'll just assume everybody is familiar with this, even though this is in some ways long before you were born. But is there anyone who thinks that the moon landing in 1969 is a hoax? is fake? Has anyone been told that it's not true? It's just a conspiracy. It's just, somebody made this up to get attention. Or can we all proceed with the understanding that there is a basic fact here? Okay, Ibrahim, very good. I need to address, as I answer this question, Zaina and Michael, what's going to come up ultimately in any real discussion about humanity's destiny in the world today is, can we agree on basic facts? And we live at a time where there's even division, even growing division, on the agreement on the most basic facts. So before I go forwards, I want to address what Ibrahim has said, and I want to make sure I understand it. Ibrahim, what does I don't mean? Does it mean you don't believe it's true? Or I'm not sure what you're saying. So can you jump on your microphone so we can do this in real time? I see, Ibrahim, I think you're sharing your mic, but I'm not hearing you. Okay. Ibrahim, can you clarify? Because I want to make sure I understand. There's so much potential for mutual miscomprehension. That's what I call it. People just don't understand each other because of what they're saying. So, Ibrahim, what do you mean by I don't? It's very important you clarify that. Okay, so I'm going to move forwards, okay, Michael, and because I'm addressing Michael and Zaina largely because you're asking, and Michael specifically, I don't understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to help you to see is that the idea that humans are living on a planet and that they have evidence for it is very new for humanity. Okay, so let's just get this point understood. And the reason is because only in the late 1960s, when there were accelerated space exploration missions, did we finally begin to get humans landing on the moon, going to the moon, and taking pictures of planet Earth. So I'm going to move forwards and make sure, since I don't have Ibrahim clarifying anything here, with the understanding that we have a basic fact. Humans went to space in the 1960s. Humans landed on the moon, the first time humans have ever done such a thing in the history of all life on Earth, landing on another object in space. But just before that happened, Zaina, Michael, 1968, there was even a more important mission. Are you familiar with the term Earthrise? Zaina, Michael, have you ever heard of the term Earthrise before? Can you clarify this? You haven't. Okay, excellent. Okay. Zaina, here's what you need to know, okay, so that you understand about planetization. In 1968, while there were regular missions that the United States was making into space and the Soviet Union was making into space to compete for who would get the furthest, who would be the first to begin to develop these new technologies that would take us further. On Christmas Eve, 1968, December 25th, the Americans had 3 men in space in an Apollo, it was called the Apollo mission. Their mission was to go into orbit around the moon, not to land on the moon, but to go into orbit. And they did that. And they did something remarkable at that time, at that moment, that no human had ever done. They took a picture of planet Earth, and it happened suddenly, as they were going around the moon in its orbit, they saw in the distance, over the kind of horizon of the moon, they saw the Earth rising in the sunlight. And they saw it coming up. And it was such a striking and powerful moment for them. They couldn't believe it. They started to quote scriptures. They were Christians, Zaina. Zaina, are you Muslim? Yes or no? You are. Okay. So I just assumed from the name. They were Christians, but they were using the same scriptures that to some extent you do in the Quran, or Jews do with the Torah. It's the Bible of the people who believe in one God. So Jews, Christians, and Muslims do, and they all have similar scriptures, but they're different. But what the American astronauts did, who are Christian, is they were so blown away by this vision of a single planet that they started on live television for hundreds of millions of people around the world. On Christmas morning, they're starting to quote from, Genesis in the scriptures. Like, we feel like we're going back in the beginning of time. We're seeing the planet here. And meanwhile, they're scrambling in their space capsule to get their cameras so they can take a picture of this. And eventually they did. And it's become perhaps the most famous photograph ever taken. Certainly the most famous of that decade, maybe the 20th century, maybe of all time. Humans were seeing planet Earth live for the first time. That happened in 1968 on Christmas morning. It moved people, Zaina, and it moved many to such an extent that people began to say, humans need a new way of relating to reality. Now, over the years, there are people who've said this is a hoax. It's not. And the reason we know that is because there is so much evidence, most importantly, that it was happening on live television in front of the world. Since that time, Zaina, there has been a new way of thinking, a new mind that philosophers and scientists and others have been talking about, which is we need to be thinking of the planet first. We need to understand that we live on a planet. And we need to understand that since we've seen the planet, and it has what's called a biosphere around it. Like when you look at the Earth from afar, you see that there's this sort of ribbon around it. It's all kind of beautiful thin ribbon. And everything inside of that ribbon is the Earth. It's alive. Everything outside of that is not alive. And what we began to see is that we realized, and we're slowly beginning to realize over the last decades, and even now in the 2020s, there's so many people who just don't get this and understand this. When you look at the planet as a whole thing, you begin to see a living thing. Everything is alive inside that, in that biosphere. Everything isn't. And when you begin to think like that, you start to think about, well, what are the consequences of our actions on planet Earth? What's the consequence of the waste that we put into the environment? Is it possible we could be killing things permanently? Is it possible we could be destroying the planet as a result of what we're doing on that planet? Planetization is the way of thinking about the planet first. We have to planetize our minds. We're in a period, in an era where we're beginning to planetize our minds. This is called planetization. Zaina, is that making sense? Or do you feel like it's not. And I will explain a little bit more and then move on. But it's really important that you understand this idea, because there may be no greater force for our future than understanding what we're doing to the planet. Excellent. Okay, Michael, any questions? Because you put that in caps, so you were clearly not, you felt you weren't understanding. Is something still not quite registering with this idea of planetization? Are you able to jump on your microphone, Michael? Okay. So I'm going to assume Michael understands. All right. I want to stop because I, let's say, have done as much talking as I really should be this class. I can lecture for a long time and talk about a lot of things. So what? Even if it's a great lecture, we know from research that your attention span is going to, only be able to manage 20 minutes of that, and then you tune out. So it's really important that you have a chance to interact and think about what we're exploring. So first, I want to come back to the teams from last week, okay? And I'm going to start with team one. Ashwin, I'd like you to jump on your microphone, okay?
Well,
Great, okay. Are you able to also turn your camera on?
no.
No? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this back from last week to help a little bit. And here we go. Just a second. I'm going to share something with you, which is the notes from last week. Okay. And here they are.
So do I basically talk about this?
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
So you should see, I just want to help you refresh your memory a little bit. Okay. And then you
Okay.
can, so you see the notes in front of you. So what I want you to do is, just like the others did last week, is I want you to just look at the notes for a second, and just because I don't want you to read the notes to me, what we would say verbatim, word for word. What I want you to do is summarize what's in the notes off your toes. So I'll leave the notes up now for you to look at, but then I'm going to remove the notes because I don't want you to look
Oh,
at them. And I
okay.
want you to, okay. So you tell me when you're ready to speak from memory. Okay.
Uh,
Just look at them.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay. Got it.
You got it? Okay. And so you don't have to be perfect at all, but the
Okay.
point of the exercise is I'm now working on the essential employability outcomes. I'm trying to help you communicate better. And the way we communicate better is that we don't keep referring to our machines and our devices for information. We have to do it from our heads. We got to do it from memory. Very,
Okay.
very important. Okay, great. So I'm going to remove this, and I'll come back here and look at me. Okay, so Ashwin, go ahead and tell everybody, and I'll bring everybody in here. Go ahead and tell everybody.
So
Yeah,
sorry. So basically, there's like right now, there's like 24 colleges in Australia.
yeah,
So the I forgot the name, but like the like person that supervises the education.
yes,
Yeah, she said that like all the taxpayer money is not shifted into private institutions and not in the actual campus.
yes,
And basically, since that, a lot of people like say like a lot of programs are being like canceled
yes,
and are not like being laid off. Like lots of workers are being laid off,
yes,
and a lot of people are not like um, doing what do I say? Not a lot of people. Sorry, sorry about
it's
that.
okay. No,
I'm
this is
just I'm not
this is
I'm bad in communication.
this is okay, but this is excellent. That what you're doing is you are attempting to explain something complicated by processing it through your mind and memory. And there's nothing
Yeah.
more human than that. This is not a machine talking. This is Ashwin talking. And humans are not perfect. Okay? Humans are not.
Yeah.
But keep trying. Okay? So keep telling us
Okay.
more about what you've heard.
Yeah. Also, a lot of the people, they also want lots of like, what do I say? Lots of like wages to increase payment, and other like more vacation.
Yep. Yep.
So that's another reason why they're protesting, because they want to get more wages for schools and stuff, and they also want more vacations because they're not having enough vacation like time than before.
This is good. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things I'm helping you to do, and everyone should respect Ashwin right now for being put on the spot. This would be kind of the moment, Ashwin, if we were in the classroom, for you to come up to the podium and we would talk together, you know, in front of this, if you were in person, for example. But one of the things that's really important in terms of communication is that you don't state your opinion until you've done your homework. And humanity's destiny today has a problem with communication, because a lot of communication exists in forums like social media and others where people can just give their opinions very fast about something, and they may not have done any homework. So what I want to help you to do, Ashwin, is in order to understand how this strike is unfolding, and particularly what it means for our future and all of these issues, I want you to try and now explain the other side, the management side, what you think they're thinking. Because being able to do your research before you have an opinion means you have to listen to all sides, or you have at least have to listen to the other side before you decide what you think. So, Ashwin, right now you've essentially spoken of the side of the support workers. What do you think the management is saying? Like, why they could have negotiated a new contract, but they didn't. This is why strikes happen, because we often say war is what happens when language fails. Conflict is what happens when people can't talk to each other anymore. So clearly the support staff and management are having trouble talking. You've told us a bit about the support staff, but what do you think the management is saying? Like, what's their position? Do you know what it is?
I don't know really, but like the management, I think they're like focusing more on like giving money to other stuff compared to education, and I feel like they're like discarding education in like the long time.
They're discarding education long term,
Yeah.
and that they're not actually investing enough in education. Perhaps, is that possible?
Yeah.
It
Like they're
well,
investing in a lot of other stuff, like how to grow the country and stuff, but they're like defunding like education because of that reason.
yes. Our I'd like to all give you a critical fact here. Nobody will dispute this because it comes from our authoritative sources of our governments. It comes from our journalists, and the ones who are also most committed to good information. It comes from our scientists and ultimately our scholars, those who work in universities and are dedicated to the best possible information. Ontario receives the least amount of money from the government for education compared to any other province in the country. Did any of you know that? In other words, management at the college expects to receive a certain amount of money from the government, the provincial government, the Ministry of Education. And that amount that they've been receiving in colleges is less in Ontario than any other part of the country. So management is dealing with less and less money from government than in the past, and they have more economic pressure on them in Ontario compared to any other province. So that's partly why the management is very concerned as well about this strike, because they say they don't have enough money to provide the support staff with what they're asking because they're in Ontario. So that's a pressure. The critical part of what, Ashwin, you've done and all of you are doing right now is that you are communicating about something very, very complicated. You're trying to understand something very complicated in terms of our future. And this is something that you're going to have to do constantly in your life because the world today is extremely complex. And in order to be able to know what's going on, really know what's going on, you need to do your homework. You can't just have an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. And that leads us to even more conflict and more people killing each other. You need to do your homework and understand all sides, and that's hard. But as one student has said in a discussion post, at the time that you're living in, we're all living in, we've never had to be smarter than now because it's just so complicated. So let's just stop for a second and try and think about some critical information right now. Masoom has been working very, very hard, at least thinking about the notes. And before we go on to the next team, I want us to go forwards with some critical information here that we are learning about humanity's destiny in terms of the strike. So, Masoom, I'd like to come to you for a moment and tell us a bit about what you're seeing with your notes. What is emerging as critical? Are you able to jump on your microphone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So let's, and I'll come here for a second. So, Masoom, if you look at the notes that you've been taking, just like
Um,
Ashwin did, Ashwin had to look at some notes and then he had to kind of explain and summarize. Well, what's important here? Okay, so what would you say is really important that we've been talking about today? Go ahead.
well, we've been talking about student reflection and the strike that's going ongoing. Um, the trust in leadership, as well as economic and globalization, as well as plantization.
Yes, excellent. Way to go. Way to go. Yeah. Good, good. And does planetization, as I explained it, is it really, does it relate that much to the strike, or is there something bigger going on in terms of current events?
Um, I mean, there's something bigger going on because strays can be seen as a response to global market forces, uh,
Yep.
shared environmental and social systems that need collective responses,
Yep.
and um, s- strikes disrupt daily life, but also relieve systems that can be a nuisance and a civic statement. Misinformation and lack of verified facts make it harder for us as the students to understand and as the teachers to understand what's really going on
Yeah.
and how to respond to the ongoing strike.
Excellent. Excellent. Keep going. Try to do it, and try to do it as you're explaining it. Try not to look at the notes now and just sort of try to put the sentences together off your toes, as if you've been just asked in class to stand up and speak.
So do I still talk about the planetization or?
Yeah. What you missed something about planetization. I said there was an issue that is bigger than the economic issues that the support staff are striking for. There's a very big current event that's been happening, and it relates very much to the whole planet. And in order to solve it, we need to have planetized minds. We need to think about the planet as a whole. What's that issue?
Ah,
That's right, Ibrahim. Ibrahim's put in the live chat. The environment, right? The environment.
tax money is being moved to private institutions.
Climate change. I
Yeah,
would put
climate change.
climate change is a environmental issue, and an environmental issue is not about money. Yes, money always plays a role, but ultimately it's about the planet. It's about nature.
Ah, so basically like wildfires, floods, tsunamis, and
Yes, exactly.
pandemics.
Exactly. You got it. You got it. That's the biggest current event of all right now. Everybody is affected by climate change in every part of the world in one way or another. There's no greater issue that humanity faces. Does that does it make sense? Or do you think there's a bigger issue? Do you think there's a bigger event going on, a bigger current event happening every day that's more important for humanity? If we really think in a planet-wide way, Masoom, we stand back and we think about the planet, and we know we are on a planet now. I've told you about how we've just arrived at that point in history. So when we think about the planet, we think about, well, what's the biggest event taking place down there on planet Earth that we've really got to think about?
I
It's
mean, there's ongoing wars right now across the
yes,
world, like Ukraine, Russia, or like Israel, Palestine.
yep, yep, that's right. But what if we begin to change the weather to such an extent that there are people who can't live in their countries anymore because it's too hot, or a flood has wiped their city away, or a wildfire has burned their whole community down? Where do these people go? How will they live? What happens when the climate itself is so unstable that we can't create enough food agriculturally? We can't grow the food that we used to. We can't distribute that food the way we used to. This will be an issue that we will have to deal with through your lifetime and your children's lifetime and your grandchildren's, to make sure that we don't destroy our climate.
No, you can't hear it because I'm using my headphone.
Imagine that. Imagine if it's too hot or too cold, or there's too much water, or there's not enough food. What are human beings going to do? I'll tell you one thing, Masoom, they will probably fight a lot more.
Yep, that's true.
They will probably fight a lot more if there is famine. People can't grow their own crops anymore because there's a drought in Saskatchewan, and it's just one of many places where the farmers are facing exactly riots, Ibrahim, over water supply. So I want you to think, all of you, as we conclude this class, we're coming to the end today. I want you to think about this idea. What is the greatest current event that humanity faces? And how will we deal with this going forwards? And I will speak to this in future classes as well, in terms of showing you the science that we've learned about human impact on nature. So I want you to start thinking deeply about this idea that because we understand now that we live on one planet, we're forced to think about, what are we doing to that planet? And when we think about what we're doing to that planet, we ultimately have to think about nature, not other humans. It's nature. The planet is nature. And if we are changing nature through climate change, where will we be in 50 years? Where will we be in 100 years? It's very important to think about this. Anyhow, let me just come back to any other team. Is there anybody here in the class today who did not have a chance to present their discussion points from last week around the strike and would like to? Please feel free to jump in before we conclude, okay? I'm going to end a little bit sooner today, the class, just because it's an online class and it's hard to keep the energy going online for so long. Is there anybody who would like to speak to their team work from last week? Let me just see.
I just have a quick.
Sure.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about how do we obtain marks for this class to pass?
How? Well, have you been, I've broken it down for you. Well, I'll break it down again. Were you in the first class, or did you watch the recording for the first class? Okay.
No, I
Let
was
me just
not. I was not.
Sure. Okay. Here we go again. And Masum, please take this down as well, because there may be other students who have the same question, and they can refer to your notes. Okay. But let me just clarify for everybody. Dalton, every class that we have, you can participate in any way you choose. Essentially, you can come in person. You can join synchronously, which is what you're doing now. Or you can join asynchronously, which is just watching the recording.
Yep.
So, Michael, I know you want to speak. I'm just going to explain this to Dalton, and then I'll come to Michael, okay? So, essentially, okay, Michael, go ahead, and we'll come back to Dalton. Please jump. Are you there? Okay, so it's some problem with. So Dalton, essentially, every class that we have, there are participation marks, 2.5%
Yep.
or 5 out of 5. If you come to the class in person, which you're not doing this week, we're all synchronous, okay? But if you came in person to the global classroom and you came all the way to the campus, and you were there for the class, to receive your 5 out of 5, your 2.5% for that class, you would have to post a question on the discussion board for that class. And the discussion board is on the content page in the class folder. For every class has its own class folder on the DC Connect content page. So you need to familiarize yourself with that. Class 1 has its folder, class 2, class 3, and every class has a recording, every class has its notes, and every class has its discussion board. Okay, so in order to get your participation marks, if you're in person, you have to make sure that your name is on the board for attendance. I know you're there, and you have to put your question in on the discussion board, and that's it. You get your 5 out of 5. If you join synchronously, like you're doing now, and you post just a question, you will receive 4 out of 5. But if you want full marks, 5 out of 5, you have to do what the asynchronous students do, the students watching the recordings only. You have to post a question plus a reason for why you've posed that question. And you'll see that in the discussion board, all sorts of. Those are the participation marks. And if you take those participation marks over 14 classes, 2.5%, times 14, you will see there's a big chunk of your final grade that is those participation marks. In addition to that, there are 3 assignments that you will be doing. One assignment will be just at the end of this first half of this semester worth 20%, and then there's 2 other assignments coming in the second half of the semester worth 20% and 35%. There's a big assignment coming at the end of the semester. That's an essay or a video that you make. So you've got these participation marks every week, and you've 3 assignments. It's all writing or making videos. There are no exams, there are no quizzes.
Sounds
That's
good.
that's how you get assessed. Okay, so you good? You understand?
Yeah. Okay. And so the discussion post has to be done during the class time, or can it be done anytime during that day, during the week? When would the discussion post need to be
Good
posted?
question. The discussion post is always due the day before the next class. So you'll see, so for example, the discussion post number 3, which is what you'll be doing after today's class, is due next Tuesday at 11:59 p.m.
Okay. Sounds good. And so because I was here today and participating, I get a mark?
Yeah, but in order, if you didn't put, you get automatically for just coming synchronously, you get 3 out of 5. If you want 4 out of 5, you post a question after that you think is important. If you want 5 out of 5, follow the instructions for the asynchronous students and you'll see it. You have to do the question and the reason, which is 200 to 225 words. So if you just show up as you've done today and you do nothing, you get 3 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll come in class next week then.
Yeah. So I'm essentially, ultimately, I'm always rewarding the students who come in person to the class, but it's I'm still tweaking the system, but it seems to work. No students have been complaining, so.
It's good. You're a passionate professor. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope that things are clear. My passion is just because I love to help open your mind.
Shows.
It's the knowledge. The knowledge is critical. Okay. That's more important. I'd rather have a knowledgeable professor who's a little bit boring than a passionate professor who's talking, who doesn't know what he's talking about.
I agree.
All right, guys. So listen, does anybody have any other questions? Daniel or Dalton has asked some good questions. There's nothing that's considered a bad question. All that matters is you understand. Okay, so before I let you go, anybody else? All right, so I'm going to let Masoom, what I'd like you to do is you have a choice. You can cut and paste your notes into the live chat right now that you've got, or you can, if you want to clean them up, you can do that and you can post them in the discussion post later.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Okay, great. So I'll give you some time to do that. Good work. And most importantly, I like the way that you talked and you tried to explain things right off your toes, Excellent. Okay, everybody. I'll see you next week. Okay?
Have a lovely day, Professor.
Yeah, take care. I'm going to let everybody go before I save the live chat and I have all the notes. So the class is over. You can leave. And I'll wait until everyone's gone before I fully disconnect.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, this is Zubair. I was late because I thought it's in person. So
Yes.
I didn't have my laptop in there, so I had to get home and then join. Did you guys do the attendance already?
Well, did you see? I sent. There was an announcement posted on DC Connect, and I also sent an email to you about the class being online. So I guess you didn't see either of those, huh?
No, for some reason it didn't like send a notification for me.
No problem. That's fine, Zubir. If you'll get your 3 out of 5 for just being here in the class, but if you want the 4 out of 5, you need to post a question. If you want the 5 out of 5, you need to post a question plus the reason. Okay.
Question plus the reason.
That's right. If you have to go to the discussion board between now and the next Tuesday night and
Mhm.
post a question that you think is important to ask, and then for 200 to 225 words and nicely written, not just off the top of your head. I want to see nice English sentences. You write the reason for why you asked that question.
Okay.
Then you get your 5 out of 5.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day. Bye.
Take care. Okay, I've saved everything. Kirandeep, Kumari, Rudra, and Sneha. I'm leaving, so see you next week, okay?